mom always says, if you don't reach for the stars, you're definitely not going to catch one.
Well, Miss Kimberly Ann, welcome, and we're super stoked to have you here today for a chat with us on Mind Stock Talk, and we're just going to get right into the details. We're going to dig in. We want to know a lot about the company overview for Lahontan and the strategy and what that future outlook looks like.
Great. I'm very excited for this interview.
So why don't you start with telling us a bit about yourself, though?
I've been in this business for a little over 15 years. My first really great success that people know a lot about is a company called Project Gold. We had the Magino mine, a Magino project at the time. We took the company from 18 million market cap, sold it to Argonaut Gold for $340 million. That was a 26-month turnaround. And it was a fantastic deal for our shareholders. But not only was that a great deal, but it was also great for the group going forward because it's now in production. It's a massive operation. So great asset, right? And then I moved to water tanks. I really want to learn the debt side of the business. That was super fun for me. I was running around the world, investing in all kinds of assets, a lot in Nevada. Given that I live in California, I'm very close to all of the Nevada assets. That was great for me. And then I moved to Peru, played in Peru, started a gold and silver company, took it from nothing to building an underground mine, which I am not a geologist. I'll tell you that right now. I'm a business person focused on making money because at the end of the day, I know we have a lot of great geologists and engineers in the world and very technical people that want to be in love with their assets, and that's great. But I'm just like any other person that's investing. I want to make money, and I want to make money for my shareholders. Very simple to me. And then I got bored. I sold the company and went on to starting a copper gold company in Peru because I love Peru. And I sold that in 24 months to C3 Metals. It's a great copper gold asset. And then I started Lahontan. Lahontan's like a darling of all the companies put together for me, in that it really has the best jurisdiction. It's gold and silver, which I love. It's got sizability, infrastructure, past producer, so many things that when I look at investing, I can just check off my list, which I think is really important for shareholders, especially in this crazy world we're living in right now. So, I mean, as far as mining, that's my background. Like, I could go on for days about everything else I do, but let's just start with that.
Also, that suggests you have a big, strong background in the financial side of it, though. The stock plays
Yes.
as well.
Yes, absolutely. I also have had several different styles of businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur from 20 on. I had hair salons, sold them for massive profits, clothing lines with my husband, competitive skier, competitive sailboat racer. So I have a very competitive, there's nothing in my mind that says you have to win. Like I don't fail at anything I do. So I think when you're looking at a leader, you want to follow leaders that the fail button is never in their mindset. And that's just how I think. My father actually used to say to me, if you work for someone else, you're failing. He was pretty hardcore with me, but it really stuck in my mind. So I've always started my own businesses, and it's worked out pretty well so far.
One thing I just wanted to point out very quickly, and it sounds like you're multiverse, and I actually am too. I've done probably any job you can think of, including scrubbing toilets. I've done it all. And one thing I wanted to point out is it's really nice to see some really strong women in this industry, because I feel like over the years maybe that's something that has lacked, but it's becoming more and more prominent, and it's obviously like the spotlight is out there happening for us women. So I'm really happy to see this.
Me too. I mean, I think we need more always, but I like to be one of those leaders in the industry because really, like, I have two boys, they're 28, 29, and I really, more than just women focused, I'm really focused on bringing new blood in our industry because it's a sexy industry. You can make a lot of money in this industry, and it's super fun. When AI is gonna get to a point where people aren't excited about it, or crypto or whatever it is, I want mining to be front and center for people, and I want them to understand what we're doing is so important on a global basis on everything across the board. And nothing upsets me more is when I'm talking to my people in California that drive their lovely Teslas and judge me for working in mining, because I'm like, newsflash, do you know what's in your Tesla? So you can't exist without me, right? So yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah, that's a point we've been trying to take on as kind of our mission too, is to bring in a younger fold into the investment side of it, as well as hopefully they would look at employment and as you say, not just women, anyone young that wants to enter a business. That's super exciting. A lot of money can be made, as we both know, and at a great timing, which brings me to the idea question of, for the company, can you give us a layout, sort of what's the strategy going forward, and why you picked to put this one together?
The strategy is, one, to get it back into production as quick as we can, which we're doing quite successfully. Two, to make our shareholders money. So people always say, well, what's the exit plan? Well, the exit plan is when we're at that point making critical decisions, whether we're going to be the next mid-tier producer, starting to gobble up other projects, or we get bought out for a lot of money. But right now, those questions aren't in front of me to have to worry about. For me, it's just fast tracking it back into production. I mean, this company really came together through great relationships, me making other people money, Victoria Gold, their whole board and management have been friends of mine since the Prodigy Gold days. And they came to me when I sold my last company, because they were all private investors, and said, Kimberly, like, will you take on our Santa Fe asset, because we know you personally, privately have other assets within the area that could form a company. And that's how it was formed. I'm not going to sugarcoat that last year was a challenging year for us, in that with Victoria's heap leach failure at their Eagle mine. I mean, things happen in mining, and I can't put that in my business model that my largest shareholders is going to have an event like that. But that being said, it did hurt us for 9 months to get put in that receivership. Really, this company came out of the love of great relationships with people that trusted me to take this project forward. So with this company, given the fact that the markets have been so challenging and straining the past 3-4 years, when we were drilling high grade holes up to 110 grams gold and our stock was going down 20%, I was like, what is happening in the market? Nobody cares about drill. And so I made the executive decision a long time ago. Okay, do we have enough ounces in the ground right now? We know there's lots more, but if we have enough to justify mine right now, then let's get our permitting done, because we all know permitting takes forever. And now we're sitting here with a new administration that I couldn't have made this up if I tried, that is pro mining. Didn't think we were going to see Trump again, honestly. And now I think I'm having to be forced to actually like him, because he's doing great things for mining as far as what we're seeing in Nevada, for legislation, et cetera. So we started that process 2.5 years ago, and a lot of people were giving me pushback, because usually junior mining's company drill, and sell it. And I was like, no, we know there's lots here, but let's get cash flowing and do it through our own dollars. Because one thing everybody hates is dilution, and it's a necessary evil of a company that's not cash flowing. So I'm really proud of what we've done so far. We also have 3 other assets that are very, very strong assets that could be standalone companies. When we get to the point where the permitting is kind of idle, we're not stopping drilling at Santa Fe. We're not stopping drilling at West Santa Fe or Moho. So I think we have a multifaceted story that we can be continuing to tell when people are saying they're, bored waiting for permits, because, there's lots to do. It's just all market dependent of how much can we raise, at what time, at what price, to take minimal dilution so we can still continue to build it out organically, I guess.
One thing we've noticed here in Canada since the administration has switched down in the United States is our government has actually changed their positioning, and it's a lot easier for us to mine and getting permits and all that here. So it's kind of interesting how that effect has had. And I guess for that, maybe we have to like Trump a little bit too.
Okay. So on a side note of that, my husband and I still have clothing companies. We have factories in Asia, we have Indonesia, all over the world. I have my own wine business that just got put 200% tariffs coming from Europe to the US. So every day I wake up and I'm like, which of my businesses is he going to hit next? And so I just feel very thankful that for mining, he put gold on the critical metal list. And I'm like, it's about time. Gold's in everything. It's not on the levels of silver and copper and everything else, but it's still a critical metal. So to me, I think that's a great thing. He's also putting BLM on notice, Bureau of Land Management, of no, you don't get 180 days to review those documents. You get 28 days. And how that's going to actually happen when we're always needing more people in these offices, I don't know. But I like that they're being put on notice, just like we are, because we're all trying to do this responsibly, but we all need to do it quicker because we need these metals. I think it's a good thing. And given that when I was at PDAC, I think Trump was pulling the whole thing with the whiskey and the alcohol, and I'm at my favorite restaurant bar, all the American alcohols are coming off the shelves. I'm like, this is going to last about 10 minutes, right? So anyway, it's interesting.
It is interesting. So you mentioned the other properties, Santa Fe, obviously, the one in the west, etc. Now, just so that we have an idea of this and the viewers, what's the proximity of them to one another? They're all in Nevada. I think it's mostly the southern end of Nevada.
We have the little town of Hawthorne, which is a 30-minute drive, which is where our warehouse and all the people work, to Santa Fe proper, less than 30 minutes, 30K, I should say, 30 kilometers. And then West Santa Fe is 10 minutes away. It's 13 kilometers across the valley. So that's the reason why I wanted this asset, because I told my team, I go find us more oxide ounces on a project level in Nevada without my old company Waterton being involved, because we were the loan to own business. Waterton was a very successful business, but they also have kind of fractured a lot of companies up, so it's not so easy to get assets out of them. And these guys did a great job. They found this asset. It's got about 13,000 meters of drilling, 171 drill holes. But what we loved about it is it's oxide. It looks exactly like what we have at Santa Fe, with the exception of higher grade silver. It has shafts all over it, because there's shafts all over Nevada from the 30s, but like in continuous lineup, and it was all silver. So very exciting project. And we paid 1.8 million over 7 years, back and loaded. So far we paid about $60,000. And to me, if we think if we get what we think it is, it's like free money. That's why we love it. It will in the future become a satellite operation. So the pressure on that asset is so beautiful, because you don't need to find 1 million ounces, although we do think it's a 1 million ounce target. Even if you find 500,000 ounces, it's measurable, because bolting on another 50,000 ounces to Santa Fe by direct trucking across the road, it's as low as cost as you can get for mining, right? We love that project. And then Moho, I love this project. It's a high-grade gold and silver vein system with multiple veins. It's got workings underground, 2,000 meters, 25 grams gold, up to 600 silver. I picked this up with my private company back in 2017. It had never seen a drill hole. And it was this beautiful, crazy Nevada story of a couple living in a little, property there. And they didn't want any big company to come in. When the wife passed away, I went to the gentleman and said, would you sell me your patent claims? And we want to pick up the rest of the land. And he said, yes. And we partnered with a group called Hochschild out of Peru to drill our first drill program, 2,000 meters. And we have a fantastic inventory that I don't want to say on camera here, but very high grade, first pass is beautiful. And so we want to get back out here. That being said, there's only so many dollars we can, work with right now and everything. So we are focused on Santa Fe and West Santa Fe proper. And then our fourth asset's a silver asset. I am looking for someone to take that on, mostly because it's a great asset, but it's not getting the attention it deserves. So we'll see what happens with that. But the great news about where all of these projects are for our team is within 45 minutes, you can go to all of them. I mean, when I had my projects in Peru, We drove 5 hours in the Andes. You want to throw up the whole way because they're so windy. And then you get there, and I live at altitude, so it's okay for me. But I get people out of the car, and they're like, "I feel like I'm going to die at this elevation." It's like a whole thing, right? So it's nice to have a location where you could have your teams living in Reno, and they do their shift, and it's just easy for everybody, and everybody's happy because you're not dealing with challenging environments.
Sounds like your satellite projects are like Christmas gifts just waiting to be unwrapped.
Yes, I know, right? They really are. They really are. I mean, literally before, when we were closing our last transaction, I was trying to figure out what I want to do next. I was going to start the company around the Moho asset. I didn't have the West Santa Fe yet. It's a special one because it's super high grade. I mean, you don't find projects like this in Nevada that haven't been touched.
So that means to unwrap these presents, you'll drill. So how does the drilling program look for this, what's left of our year, and say next year?
Right now we're finishing up. I think they're finishing up today. We did a small, about 2,000 meters at Santa Fe proper. There's 3 different locations within and around our pits that we're doing some more homework on, because at the north end of one of our pits is super high grade from what we saw last round. And of course it was on the last hole. So I'm like, let's get back out there and see what that is. And then the other 2 areas are really bringing down the pit shells to upgrade our resource and our PEA for the future. So we wanted to hit these 3 targets, see how deep we're going here, see when we're hitting transition, because we haven't hit transition in these areas yet, and then get the results back. And then we'll do another program in October, which will be a more extensive, probably about 5,000 meters. I haven't figured out how big it's going to be, but that one is really crucial for our mine permit, because we're going to have to do some core drilling, some column leach tests, some more of these studies we have to do to get our mine permit. That will be in the fall, our initial round at West Santa Fe, which we're looking at 3,000 to 6,000 meters. We've already, over there, we've already had a third party go through our data, put pit shells around us, tell us what we can use for the future. So we have a drill program ready to submit to get our permit for that, which takes a couple of weeks. We'd like to do those both at the same time, but we're very fortunate on those 2 projects specifically, and that the rock is super competent. We use Bort Drilling, who's a global business, and I've worked with them my whole career. They can drill all in about $100 a meter is what I budget. Last run, actually, they were coming in at $86 a meter, which was awesome. So I still put 100 in case of something, right? That's the balance of this year. And then we'll get all this data together and put out a brand new resource in early January. And then followed up with either a PEA or PFS. It just depends on what's going to be the right fit. But it's really just about adding more ounces, de-risking the project as we go. Because when we put out our resource and our PEA, we were doing it at 1950 gold. And in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking this 3 years ago, because we're looking at such crazy different prices right now. And it's frustrating actually to talk to the public, because our pit shells are very small, even though there's lots of mineralization underneath it. So now we're going to capture everything that we have there that has been drilled, because we do that internally, because we have to know how much rock we're going to move. So we already have an internal model knowing how much we're adding, and it's really exciting to see the numbers. So it's a really exciting balance of this year, and especially into Q1. We're about ready to hit the NEPA phase of our permit within the next few weeks. So a lot going on.
Given past production data and metallurgical testing, and I don't really know a whole lot about what that means, so I'm hoping you can enlighten my ignorant soul a little bit. But do you foresee any challenges when it comes to the next phase of drilling and production?
Mining is mining, right? We always try to improve stuff, and it's still heap leach open pit operation. That being said, we are working with different groups on the transition materials, because we have 4 known pits on the property, and we've been drilling in and around all of them, and they all have a little different geologic settings with them. So meaning over at our Santa Fe pit, which is our largest pit on the property, our recoveries are much higher than over at the slab Calvada, and we're trying to figure out what the heck's going on of Back in the day, the slab Calvada area had 62% recoveries for 6 years of mining, and over at Santa Fe, they're in the 80s. So it's different mineralization, obviously. So we're working with different groups to study that to get those numbers higher. Because even when we did our PEA, of course, it's done by a third party. And for some reason, they won't take the 6 years of mine life word for it, which is quite frustrating to me. So they put in 50% recoveries versus what actually happened for 6 years. But we're just trying to, that's why we're doing all this drilling is, okay, now we're going to start doing some more bottle roll test and more met work, because every percent helps, right? So, but even right now, when we did the model at 1950 gold, we were still 1,233 cash costs all in, which is along Nevada Gold Mines, Kinross guys, those are really good numbers, and they're just going to get better. And the best part is we have infrastructure in that we have great road access. It's very well maintained. We have a substation on our property, Robin, that no one, I don't know anyone that has a substation on their property. I guess back in the day, they just thought that'd be a good idea to put in for the mine. So Nevada Energy takes care of that for us. And right where they put it in was where all the admin site was, which is still in the same place. So when we're permitting, I'm trying to make sure we're kind of doing the same thing as last time, so that really the state office and the local offices don't have to think about it, right? They're just going, oh, you're putting it in the same place that worked before. And then we also have 3 wells with all our water rights, and that's fantastic. I mean, Nevada, water is king, and so is power. If we had to put in a substation, it's $1 million a mile. So those are great things to have. It's a perfect project. If it was in Peru, I'd just hire a bunch of informal miners to mine it. But we're not in Peru. We're in Nevada. But it's beautiful. I can't say anything more about it. It's just a beautiful project.
From like a geological standpoint, and I would say probably an environmental one, it sounds like you've got it in the bag. And that's obviously something that we like to talk about as ESG. So, I mean, I think like that makes no sense.
Yep. Well, even the pads that we reclaimed, because it's still considered a mine under closure, we have a $500,000 bond. So we have to monitor the wells and the air qualities, all these things for the past 35 years, and everything's perfect condition. But even the heap leach pads got awards. I don't even know how you get an award for heap leach pads, but they did. I mean, they just look like hills. They're beautiful. And in fact, I keep looking at them like going, okay, well, how much gold and silver is still left in those, right? Because it's just 6 years of mining. And, we've got our lovely, awesome friends, Caliber, who's now Equinox. They're mining pan at 0.34. Well, we've done the numbers, and we have so much in those pads that is at that grade that we're looking at going, okay, that's adding like almost 1 million ounces in these pads that we have here. So the future to take that rock and process it is pretty exciting as well. So yeah, I mean, from an environmental standpoint, because I have a private mining company as well, we always have other projects going through the BLM's office. We're really fortunate in having great relationships with them. We try to be very responsible about everything. Even during COVID, it was interesting because we could all work because no one is out there, and it's just a bunch of horses and bighorn sheep. We were reclaiming some of our stuff at Moho, and the BLM guys, they're like, can you just take drone footage and send it to us? And they trusted us to do that. Like, yeah, of course I can do that. So they don't have to go out in the field. So having those relationships, I think, is really important. And I'm really a people person, in case you haven't figured that out yet, where the office is an hour from my house, and I like go in there and say hi and, just try to be as helpful as possible. And I do think that's really important, because every time I walk in, they're like, no one ever comes to our office, Kimberly. I'm like, well, I'm not just anyone. I want to know the people working our files. So far, so good. But, those are all the things I can't control. So just.
Well, it sounds like you have really good hands-on and a good staff and a good hold on the jurisdiction, which we like. That's how we even dreamt up being mine stalkers back in COVID, driving through Nevada, loving the place and visiting mining sites. But we want to come and see yours. But tell me this, can you give us a few points on the type of shareholder base you have at the present? I know it's changed over time, and maybe you could explain the effect that had. There's some negative and some positive, and that's one reason why we've jumped in when we have, and we love the look of it going forward because the properties and the management sound perfect to us. But just maybe a bit of a background for the audience.
I'm actually really excited that you asked that question because we just did a small round at, we announced 2 million. We did about 2.2 million Canadian a few months back. And that was, so December, we just gotten out of purgatory from the 50 million shares that Victoria owned, and to be released to other people. So that block got moved to my two largest shareholders, which is ASA, out of the San Francisco area, and then Extract, who came from New York. They live in LA now, so I'm not sure what their domicile, but US based, which is really important to me because there's so much access to capital in the US. And I really do focus on the US because, it's hard for me to tell my story, Nevada story, at shows in Canada when people look at me and go, well, do you have flow through dollars? No, I don't have flow through dollars. It's just, so I'm really focused on the US base. But so we moved that block in December, and everybody was very happy to see, turning the page of something that we can control. And then when we did this raise, Larry Lepard, who's an awesome, very smart human. He's got 3 funds, but he also does podcasts. He writes a book. He's big on the retail side, that people really know him well. And he called me up. He says, I want to put in 1.8 million of your deal. And would you allow me to do that? And I'm like, of course I'll allow you to do that, Larry. I mean, he's always put in, like 100 or something to some of my deals, but not taking a significant position. And it really warmed my soul because that's a huge endorsement from someone like that. And then I've been collecting more newsletter writers to go with it. So, and then I'm still a very large shareholder. So, about 52% of our shareholder base is held within these hands of really smart people that want to see this company grow into something significant. So very fortunate from that standpoint. But now the message is, okay, we've turned the page of something, from the past year that's all cleaned up. Now that's de-risked from, I think, a lot of shareholders' side of things. And it's getting out there to people like yourselves and getting more retail eyes on the story, because the stock is now trading at, 8 to 10 cents, which is not a lot, but it is compared to where we were in December at 2 cents because of that situation. So people that are coming in right now, they're really happy, and I want more people involved because this isn't going to be a 9-cent stock for long as we move through the year. It just can't be with what we have in front of us. And I try to laugh about the fact that I didn't put that into my business model with what happened with Victoria Gold. But what I do know is now my largest shareholders do not own mines. They don't have heap leach failures. Their funds aren't going to go bankrupt. So I've de-risked that a lot. And I think that's important for shareholders to know, right?
Absolutely. And so where does that leave you now as a cash position, and given your burn rate, et cetera? Will you raise obviously further out, but how does that look?
We have about 1.2 left in US dollars. I don't think in Canadian dollars because that's what we work in. So it won't last a long time, because I could have taken that money and made it last till well into next year by not doing anything. But that's just not how I work. I don't do that for salaries. So this drill program and all the metallurgical work and all the permitting it costs a fair amount, but it's obviously important. And you guys as shareholders obviously want to see me doing something with this money. So we'll have to raise money before the end of the year. Hopefully we'll be in a much better share price. We won't raise a lot. I'm very careful with the dilution side of things, but I will raise enough that we can make sure we're covering everything with permitting, because if we miss anything on permitting because we don't have the funds for it, it's catastrophic. It puts you off for another year. So, and I think everybody wants to see this go back into production in a short timeline. And right now, we're targeting early 2027, and I'd like to be able to stay on that target.
Well, you just pointed out a few milestones that current shareholders obviously want to be keeping their eyeballs on. But for any new shareholders or would-be shareholders they've got their eye on Lahontan, what would you say should be the biggest takeaway for them today?
Well, I would say that we check off every box with the exception of the one thing that I can't control, and that is permitting, timelines from that. But even if you're becoming a shareholder now, I don't even think that matters to a lot of shareholders because we have such an amazing runway ahead of us. We have a team that's been doing it for a long time. I just changed out the whole board, which I should mention that are very technical. 2 of them are mine builders. The other 2 are more capital markets. So we've got a well-rounded board that I can get free advice from. And we're going to be staffing up as we move forward. But right now it's really focused on let's get through these next 6 to 9 months and really bring value without just adding on more salaries. I just hate doing that. So I use a lot of consultants because I can control the spend on that. I always say, look, you have to, look at your investments on your risk tolerance. At minimum, go to my website and sign up for the news because I'm everywhere and I really like to be personable, and I have my cell phone number on there and my personal email, and I like talking to all my shareholders. So if I didn't answer any questions on this call with you guys, then they should just pick up the phone and call me because that's what I'm here for.
So that means I can call you anytime I want.
You can. Yes, you can.
We'll make sure we put the address to the website, etc., for the followers to see and to do a deep dive for themselves. So you have a very exciting year ahead of you. What's your ultimate vision then, just to wrap up for the company and thus all us shareholders?
I just like to conquer the world one company at a time. That means success one way or the other, whether we become a consolidator, mid-producer, or get taken out for $500 million. Those are both wins. So
an exciting year ahead for everyone.
Yeah. I'm not confident at all about what I do.
Well, there you go.
My mom always says, if you don't reach for the stars, you're definitely not going to catch one.
Calling all savvy investors in mining and resources, seeking the inside track on Lahontan Gold? Look no further than mindstalkers.com for cutting-edge knowledge and real-time stock updates. Visit for the insights and stay for the gains. Seize the opportunity and explore the magic at mindstalkers.com. Uncover new investment possibilities today. Don't forget to hit the bell below to subscribe and then like and share this video. Let's get the word out there.